Have you ever been afraid of your own rage reaction? That explosion of anger that comes so strong and so fast, 1 second later, you're already hearing the echo of your own screams, watching the person you love most flinch or get defensive. And the only thing you can think is, again, why couldn't I stop? I didn't mean to say that. You promise yourself it won't happen again. You try to breathe, count to 10, but your brain has already activated an automatic program that completely hijacks you. And no, it's not a willpower problem. Science now knows that the solution isn't about controlling anger, but about reprogramming your brain so anger doesn't control you. And in this video, I'm going to reveal to you exactly how this method works. These aren't just theories. It's a neuroscience-based technique that resolves that anger explosion autopilot for good. You will discover 1, the myth of control and why it has never worked for you. 2, the real origin of explosive anger is not in your personality, it's in a specific part of your brain. And 3, how it's possible to feel anger rising and stay calm, naturally and permanently. If you are sick of the cycle of explosion, guilt, and remorse, every second of this video will be worth it. When you feel attacked, is it impossible to control your anger? I know it's not easy to live like this, with that feeling that anger takes hold on you and takes control. This becomes a loop from which it seems impossible to escape, right? And that loop feels even stronger when. Have you seen yourself reacting like this? And then you felt terrible? And the hardest part is the certainty that it will happen again, without you being able to prevent it, without giving you time to stop it. It's a helplessness that stays with you even in moments of calm. And if you are also a parent, when your children drive you crazy, do you end up yelling at them and you can't help it? You know you don't want to be like that. That is not the model you want for them. And do you know what will happen if you continue like this? That one day they will yell at you because that's what they are learning. And that's a wound we don't want to live. And it doesn't just happen at home. Do you get fired up inside when you know you are right and they don't listen to you? That feeling of helplessness that leaves you isolated, misunderstood, as if you don't fit in anywhere. You feel alone, right? And when the outburst is gone, due to explosive anger, have you divorced? Do you have difficulties with your partner, children, and family? Have you lost friends? Have you had problems at work? Have you missed opportunities? You have probably felt the consequences of explosive anger in your own skin. And although you try, it seems that it always ends up winning. It seems that no matter what you do, anger imposes itself. After an episode of anger, do you feel that remorse that crushes you, the guilt that comes right after exploding, the frustration of not being able to avoid it again and again, the helplessness of knowing that you are hurting just the people you love most, the pain of the harm you cause, and realizing with anguish that the anger will return again? I know exactly how you feel. I know because I've also been there. And today, I want to tell you something important. There's a real way out, a definitive solution. And what hurts the most is that after an episode of anger, do you feel isolated and misunderstood? Do you feel overwhelmed because you know that it will happen again without warning? Do you review that what happened to make sense of it, but you don't understand why you did it? Do you feel like you are paying a very high price? And the more time it passes, the more all this weighs on you. Because explosive anger is not just present in moments of rage, it's present in your day to day life, in your relationship with yourself, and how you see yourself in the mirror. And the worst thing is that explosive anger causes suffering. It hurts you and really hurts those you love most. Jonathan told me through tears, I feel like a monster because with my outburst, I make my children suffer and I don't know how to stop it. But there is something I want you to know. This has a solution. You can stop suffering and so can they. In a few minutes, I'll explain how you can start to change it. Explosive anger breaks families, leaves deep wounds in the children, makes those who live it and those who receive it suffer. I know that seeing all this can be overwhelming. Maybe you are thinking, wow, I feel totally identified, but is there a really way out? Something that really works? The answers are resounding yes, and the key is not in fighting against anger or trying to control it, but in understanding it at a level that until recently was unimaginable. Now we know how anger originates in the brain, and we understand the mechanisms to be able to resolve it. And this is what we are going to see next. Today, thanks to scientific discoveries, we know how the brain works when anger erupts. Now we know how to intervene in the brain so that it stops reacting with explosive anger. Neuroscience has given us the keys to creating fast and effective techniques to resolve anger forever. And later I will explain in detail these techniques that changes lives. But first, you might ask yourself, can I really change after so many years? This is the question Josh asked himself as he had been living with explosive anger since he was a teenager. For years, he thought that he was just like that, so there was nothing to do until he tried this technique and everything changed. I was skeptical at first, but this technique is direct, focused, and straightforward. The changes were fast and real. And now, let me introduce myself. I am Luis Navarro. I train as a therapist at the University of Santa Monica in California, and also in the United Kingdom. I have been solving problems like explosive anger for more than 23 years, and I have been helped hundreds of people who believed there was no solution until they tried my technique. For this reason, what I am going to explain to you now is key for you to understand explosive anger and how you can get out of it. To begin, let's look at the two most common ways in which anger appears. There are two ways to respond when you feel anger. The first is when you explode immediately. The rage takes you over and you act without control. The second is more silent. You suppress what you feel, and days later you explode over something insignificant without knowing why. It's like a pressure cooker that has so much pressure inside that the steam escapes through the valve. That's why you explode. The technique I use works with both forms of anger and resolves them forever. And you need to know something important. There is nothing wrong or bad about you. You are not a broken or defective person. Your brain learned to react this way in childhood. Explosive anger became an automatic response. It's not your fault. You didn't choose to be this way, but it's your responsibility to resolve it for yourself and others. And the good news is that now you can do it. And so you are going to see it clearly. I present you to Anna, who felt terrible about herself, but after treatment, she discovered that she was not as she believed, and she confirmed in a short time that she could change. Anna tells us this: I am no longer the crazy, mean, violent person I thought I was. Luis's technique is effective in the short term with a very quick before and after. And the reason this technique works is because the solution to your anger explosions is in your brain, in those automatic patterns that you learned when you were a child without realizing it. Today, those patterns continue to be activated in your adult life when certain triggers occur, and although they seem inevitable, they are not. And the sad thing is that there are people who end up resigning themselves. Many people end up believing that explosive anger is part of their identity. I am like that, they say. In reality, what happens is that they feel trapped as in a cage with no way out. But let me tell you something: everything that the mind learned, it can also unlearn. With the right technique, it is possible to change. Are you ready to leave the lack of control of anger behind and be yourself? And maybe you have already tried various therapies and none have worked. It's not your fault. You have done the best you could with what you knew. This technique goes directly to the root of the problem in your brain. That's why it works. And that's why the results are real and lasting. And that is something that the more common alternatives do not achieve. But first, if what I'm explaining resonates with you, subscribe to the channel because each video I upload will give you another piece of valuable information. Most of the current alternatives don't resolve explosive anger. Maybe you have already tried everything: control techniques, anger management, even therapy. But the problem is still there because all those approaches try to control the anger, and controlling something so intense doesn't work. And you already know that. And what I'm going to show you is a completely different solution, as Anna was able to verify. She tells us this therapy is different because it focused directly in my anger. The previous ones were slow and I didn't notice any significant changes. Now I can feel anger without being carried away by it. And not only Anna, also John, who was fed up with trying everything without results. And he tells us, after 7 years of trying other therapies, I found a solution in a short time. It is a results oriented therapy. Today, I am a completely different person. If you are thinking of someone who needs to see this, let me know in the comments with the word peace. And when you finally find something that works, these are the benefits of resolving anger. Imagine for a moment what it would be like feeling anger without exploding, being able to express yourself calmly and clearly in those moments, finally freeing yourself from that weight you carry, and recovering peace and feeling better about yourself. We have gone into what happens to cause anger to dominate us and why it originates. You might have even said to yourself, this is exactly what happens to me. But the million-dollar question is, how can I manage to stop suffering and make others suffer? What comes now is the heart of this video. Thanks to advances in neuroscience, we know now exactly how to reprogram your brain to stop reacting with explosive anger once and for all. You can't miss it. Stay with me because I'm going to reveal the definitive solution to explosive anger. But before, let me tell you why I do this. I know very well what anger is. I also lived with that uncontrolled rage for years. I lost important moments, and I hurt people I love. And for years I felt guilty, frustrated, impotent. I tried many therapies without success until I found an effective technique, and that led me to make a decision. What I lived through made me decide to help other people with the same problem. I specialize in this technique that achieves lasting results in a few sessions and with which I have helped hundreds of people. Because this technique is unique, and now I will explain it to you. The technique for anger reprograms your brain. It's unique, there is nothing like it. It's based on the advances of neuroscience. The technique acts on the brain in a safe and an effective way. It prevents anger from being activated again. You will not explode again. This technique channels the energy of anger from calm towards positive responses aligned with your personality. And before reprogramming your brain, I explore how your anger is in the first session. I do a complete X ray of your brain with anger. What triggers activated your anger? Your dominant personality type, what your triggers are, and what your pattern is. How your brain reacts to danger, your dominant type of anger. In addition, you choose what response you want to give from calm when you feel anger in the future. And with all this information, I design a protocol tailored to your characteristics because this work is completely personalized. Reprogramming anger is not a generic technique the same for everyone. It's a tailor made intervention with a personalized protocol based on your particular anger, which I implement with precision in the sessions, achieving that the change is deep and permanent. And what you get with this is something incredible. Reprogramming anger updates your brain just as the smartphone or the computer is updated. It disconnects the explosive anger reaction in your brain. You will feel the energy of anger in your body without exploding. You will feel calm even in the most intense moments. You will express what you think and feel from serenity. All this is achieved quickly in a few sessions. You don't have to make any effort to learn or control anger. Reprogramming anger acts on your brain and makes the change for you. And all this is possible thanks to the understanding and how the brain works. Your reptilian brain is designed to detect danger and for you to survive. When you feel attacked, it reacts automatically a tenth of a second before the information reaches the neocortex, the rational part of the brain. In addition, the human brain is visual and processes what we see just the same as what we imagine. It does not distinguish between reality and imagination. The technique reprograms the brain in that tenth of a second that there is until the rational part receives the information, taking advantage of the fact that the brain processes what we see just the same as what we imagine. Of course, this is more complex, but this gives you a clear idea on how we can reprogram anger. And this is not just theory. Pay attention to what Sandra tells us. This will help us clearly see the before and after of applying anger reprogramming. Before, anger dominated me. Now I feel it and it no longer controls me. It is as if my brain has learned a new way to respond. That's exactly what will happen to you. When you feel anger, you won't explode anymore. You won't lose control. You'll feel it, but you won't react the way you did before. And the energy of anger will be spontaneously channeled to express what you want to say and feel. Even in very intense moments, you'll respond calmly. It's as if your brain has a different pattern, and it actually does because we implemented it for you by reprogramming anger. In the last few minutes, you've discovered that your anger isn't a character flaw, it's a brain pattern. That trying to control it is exhausting and doesn't work long term. That there is a way to reprogram your brain based on neuroscience, and that it's possible to feel anger and live it with calmly. If you're not even one of these things, then you already know this is different. You already know there is a path, and the first step on that path is just a click away. And all this brings with it some impressive benefits. There are four key benefits of reprogramming anger. The results are fast and lasting. There are no relapses. You will feel a deep peace by freeing yourself from explosive anger. You will rebuild your personal relationships with your partner, your children, and your friends. You will choose your response when you feel anger from calm, even when everything gets difficult. And all this is summarized in two phrases. The technique reprograms your brain so that you stop reacting with explosive anger forever. You will feel anger with serenity and you will express what you feel and want with respect even in the most difficult moments. The people who have gone through this technique are witnesses of its effectiveness. Let's listen to Josh and John.
So before, I was at a point with anger that I didn't feel in control. I felt like anger, I went to anger so quickly and I was so out of control that it affected every part of my life. It affected my marriage, relationships, just very out of control, I'd rise to a point of anger and I felt in my body that I didn't want to be angry, but I had no choice. So just out of control. Once we started therapy, there was a process, of course, but it happened pretty quick. Realizing that I have choices and I can control this and being given the tools to control things and make choices was huge. That's how I feel afterwards, that I just am in control. I can recognize now some of the trigger things. I can recognize the very first burst of anger, and I realize that I have a choice in my emotions. It's very direct, very pointed, though. I was seeing another counselor before leading up to this, and there's a lot of, in particular counseling, individual counseling, you do a lot of meandering. You do I'm going to touch on this today, or this thing happened this week. But I think when we were in our sessions, there was a focus, and the focus was my anger. Let's talk about the anger, but there's very quick result. It was a very quick process, relatively. What do we do? Maybe 5 sessions, 4 sessions, and there were huge changes.
So before, I was more or less reacting. I'm someone who with explosive anger, and through this therapy process, it was finding more productive ways of handling the triggers that I would have of these negative emotions, negative energy. And I didn't believe in the beginning that there was going to be a result-based approach. I had done 6 or 7 years of therapy, and this was something that in a very short period of time that I was able to go from having these triggers that would lead to negative outcomes to finding a results-based approach that allowed me to handle these things and, quite frankly, improve my life in a way I never thought was possible. I'm telling you, this has saved my marriage, it's improved my friendships, and it's bettered my life.
At this moment, you know that you are one step away from freeing yourself from explosive anger or continuing trapped in the vicious cycle of anger. and the decision is only yours. You have been fighting this alone for years, maybe decades. Broken promises, guilt, remorse, that endless cycle. But today it ends. For the first time, you have a real way out. It's not just another piece of advice. It's not control. It's a definitive solution that reprograms your brain so anger stops hijacking you. And the first step to your freedom is simpler than you think. I've reserved time in my schedule for a group of people committed to changing their lives. For them, I have a free assessment offer. In this private, no obligation call, we'll do three things together. First, we'll identify the exact trigger that starts your outburst. Second, we'll uncover the brain pattern that keeps this cycle alive. And third, and most important, I lay out a clear, personalized plan to resolve your explosive anger in fewer sessions than you can imagine. This isn't a sales call, it's a clarity call. You'll walk away with a deeper understanding of your anger that you haven't had in years and with a path forward. This assessment call won't cost you anything, but what is it costing you not to do it? It's infinitely more expensive. It's costing you the peace in your home, the quality of your relationships, and your own self-esteem. Are you going to allow that to continue when you have the solution within your reach? Book your call, talk to me, and if at the end of the conversation you don't see a clear and personalized path to freeing yourself from anger, if you don't walk away with a clarity you haven't had in years, then you won't have lost anything. But if you see that path, like hundreds of people before you are about to change your life forever. To take this first step today, click on the link just below this video in the description and in the first pinned comment. It will take you directly to my calendar to book your free clarity call. It's that simple. There are limited spots because I handle each case myself. Click, book your call, and take the first step today to regain peace in your life and in your family. This is your moment. The decision you make now will define your future. Work with explosive rage or definitive peace.